Hey there everyone, welcome back to the channel, Russia in Context. I wanted to do a little bit of follow-up after yesterday's video. If you haven't checked that out, do that now. But yeah, it's the day after the attempted coup by Wagner and Yevgeny Prigozhin, or whatever that was yesterday. And even though things are all over, I do kind of want to chat a little bit about what things are like here in the city still, and things of that nature. So basically, I'm sure if you've been following the story, you've already seen 100 different interpretations of what it was exactly that happened, why it ended as abruptly as it did. I'll be totally honest, I've read plenty of them myself. I've listened to plenty of experts or people who have their own opinions. And honestly, I'm not here to discuss that. I'm here just kind of to discuss the general, again, mood or atmosphere of things here in Moscow. Because yesterday, when I made the video, I specifically went to the center because I wanted to see what it was like there. Obviously, the center of the city in times of, let's say, difficulty tends to go into something of a lockdown, right? You see more police out, you see barricades, things of that nature. And while that was true near Red Square, if you do look carefully, little bird over there, if you do look carefully in the video, you will notice that there are barricades and that there was nobody walking on Red Square. In front of some of the government buildings too, it was all cordoned off. But for the most part, the center was the same. However, like I said yesterday, there was just sort of an odd atmosphere about. Even though everybody was walking and enjoying themselves, it just wasn't quite what you would normally expect. So, with that in mind, let's talk about how today is. Now, obviously, I'm not walking around the center. I have no desire to go. I've just been sort of out and about in more residential neighborhoods. In fact, that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I'm just taking a walk, clearing my head. But as I said just a little bit ago, I have been following the news and listening to a lot today, and that includes what's been going on in the Russian language Telegram channels. And again, I cannot reiterate enough just how important it is to realize that Russian Telegram channels are basically a barometer for what's happening in society at large these days. It's a good place to see what people's comments are, especially with other social networks blocked off. And it does give you an opportunity to read varying news sources. So the Russian Telegram channels today, whether they be, we'll say pro-Kremlin or pro-Wagner or any other type of Telegram channel today, people were very puzzled. Obviously, pro-Kremlin channels don't understand why Prigozhin was let off the hook. Pro-Wagner channels don't understand why Wagner forces didn't push all the way to Moscow. Nobody understands where Shoigu and Gerasimov, the head sort of commanders of the Russian military, where they've disappeared to. And Putin has also kind of disappeared, right? He gave a speech yesterday, and then since that point in time, he just sort of dropped off the map. The news programs this evening, two of the larger ones, have also, I don't want to say questioned what's been going on, but they do seem a bit confused as to why there's not going to be any criminal case brought against Yevgeny Prigozhin, basically why he's being let off the hook. And the reason people are not able to just sort of let this go is because one of the aspects of the atmosphere yesterday, one of the things that was hard to describe, and maybe I should have done a better job of that, was the sense that something big was about to happen. Something, I don't want to say life-changing, but momentous. One of those sort of historical moments. That's what it felt like. The closer those troops got to Moscow, the more that was there in the atmosphere of the furtive glances that people exchanged when they were looking at news updates over the telephone, or just the sort of whispers that people were exchanging back and forth between each other, right? Those murmur that was sort of everywhere all around. And then it just was gone. And it's hard to walk back from that. I can't think of another good example, but you have to understand it, right? Basically 30 years ago in Russia was when the Soviet Union was ending, when you had tanks firing on the White House. Well, again, not the White House as Americans would recognize it, but White House as in Белый дом, as in the government building here in Russia. Beside the point. What it came down to is there was really the sense that something like that was brewing. And then it just stopped. And because that build-up and then that sort of anti-climax, we're left with a lot of people theorizing that something is still going to happen. Theorizing that this is all some massive plan. But I think in reality, that's not what we're looking at. So that lack of a climax has people theorizing, and it will continue. People are upset. Nobody is happy with the solution of how things ended, because it feels like it hasn't ended. And I don't know exactly how this is going to play out. Obviously, nobody does. But we have seen, I suppose you might call them pro-Kremlin people. I mentioned Girkin yesterday. He formed a new coalition of angry patriots, I suppose. There's probably a better translation out there, but and they're demanding that basically either Putin step up and take control of the situation or resign, right? And that's not something that typically happens here. So things are changing quickly. And I mean, I think it's probably pretty clear elsewhere out there in the world, but I did want to do a little follow-up today. Things ended so anticlimactically yesterday after everything that we had been through. But the feeling here is very much that something could still happen. I mean, I'm going to be honest, right? It's Sunday evening. Monday is a work day. Although, yesterday, for whatever reason, the mayor of Moscow decided to give everybody a day off on Monday. So that's not something you just normally do if you think everything's going to be, hunky-dory come Monday. So clearly yesterday in the late afternoon when Mayor Sergei Sobyanin made that announcement, the powers that be were expecting something a little more serious or prolonged, I suppose we could say. As it stands, tomorrow is technically a day off of work, but nobody really understands why, and will, I guess, remain. It remains to be seen what will happen with that. It's also worth noting that yesterday, when everything was developing, the government put into effect what's known as KTO here in Russian, which is basically a counter-terrorism operation, which gives the government kind of various powers and oversights that they don't, on paper, normally have. Even though the situation has resolved, that KTO, the counter-terroristic operation, is still in effect. So also a bit strange, but we'll see what happens with that. Anyway, just wanted to do a quick follow-up after yesterday, and I'm sure everyone everywhere is still keeping an eye on the situation because it feels, to use the word for the 800 millionth time, anticlimactic. But yeah, the mood here in Russia definitely has not gotten any lighter. We're just very, very confused. And it's definitely not just me. It's everybody at large on all sides of the table. And there's a lot of different sides to the table. Anyway, I guess this is more of a vlog style video that I'm producing here. I suppose the video is inherent in the word vlog though, isn't it? But if it's something you enjoyed, let me know. I am typically a person who prefers writing. I have sometimes a hard time putting my words together, especially after so many years with Russian, right? You know, the two-language thing, you kind of get confused sometimes, or it takes a little bit longer to pick out your words. I'm also a bit shy just walking around speaking English here in Moscow. I realize that may seem a bit strange, but after living here for as long as I have and doing my best to speak Russian and try to blend in, you know, be a local, I've kind of feel uncomfortable walking around and just blah, blah, blahing all over the place in English. I get very self-conscious about it, which is doubly difficult when you consider the fact that vlogging is something that you really can't be very self-conscious about. So it is a bit of a barrier, but it's something that I'm working to overcome. But I think that this is maybe the most effective way of putting together sort of quick updates as to what's happening here in Russia. I know in the past I've tried to do sort of those Russian news you may have missed, and that is something I will continue to do, but things move very quickly here, especially now. And in order to keep ahead of changes that are going on, or keep up with them, I suppose, I feel like it might just be easier for me to do these off-the-cuff vlog entries. Obviously, I'm walking around a forested park right now. It might not be the most interesting of locations, but as I do this more in the future, which I almost certainly will be, I will attempt to fuse basically what I did yesterday, where walk around the center, walk around some more interesting places, and give kind of an update of what's happening here on the ground. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, well, you know what to do. Subscribe, like, there's a bell, you know, YouTube stuff, there's buttons, click them, do all that. But yeah, if you've made it this far, thanks for watching, and, well, as always, this has been Russia in Context. Once again, thanks for watching.